Okay, how does your product challenge conventions and how does it represent social groups or issues? Um, this magazine was heavily influenced by the magazines I used in my research, Gallery and Dust. Here on the front cover, I hope you can see that it is influenced by Gallery in the way that this white area at the top here, containing the masthead, sort of mirrors the way Gallery has a white block at the top of the cover page with its title in. It doesn't interact with the actual image. So I took that and used that on here. And then I used the convention from Dust with the actual image I used. Now, Dust always tends to have a really almost uncomfortable closeness to the model in their photography. And they tend to use this black and white hue, which I think, really adds to the aesthetic of the magazine. And that's what I'm trying to portray here because I decided to take the content and the idea of Gallery and mix it with the aesthetic and artisticness of Dust and try and merge them together. So I managed to follow that through here, and then on the contents page, I've used this area from Gallery. They have sections of photos that are taken from parts of the magazine, and as a little sort of preview of their content. I also tried to keep with the colour scheme that I used in the front cover, following it on to keep this really nice aesthetic going through the magazine. On the double page spread, again, I followed through with the colour scheme and I took my title idea from Dust. Dust has a really strong title and masthead on all of its magazines. The branding is really strong through its really bold and in-your-face titles and mastheads. That's all it uses to brand it, apart from the aesthetic that it also uses. So I decided to take that into my title here, making it really large across the pages. You know what it's about straight away. And that follows on to the image that I took, which, although is a little bit more intricate than most of the Dust photography that I found, because they tend to use a very clean, clear model and make their things look very minimalistic almost. I still tried to use certain aspects of their black and white ideas and very much tried to make it look artistic in the way that they do, rather than just an image put on the screen. I used Gallery's idea of aligning the text here left rather than central, which I found in most magazines, just, as an aesthetic decision. Again, throughout the magazine, I followed on with the block idea, like the number 1 here, these little numbers on the sides here, and the A on here, the overlaps of blocks follow through the whole magazine, and one of the key points in bringing the content together. It also challenged certain conventions, I find, because, especially with my contents page, I did it over a double page rather than a single page, which I didn't find in my magazines that I did research in. I found that it would be much easier to portray this really artistic and polished aesthetic in the contents page if I spread it out over 2 pages. So I did that, and it also helped me allow to keep my certain conventions like the phone here and the blocks into the contents page as well. With social groups, it's here to represent the arts community, the people that enjoy local culture. It's a local based magazine, and it's here to celebrate them and be able to show the public that they're here and they're doing their best to keep going. And the issue I found to tackle in this one is one that quite close to my heart. I find in all the research I'd been doing, any articles about youth culture tended to involve technology, and I said that's fair enough, it's a very integral part of youth culture these days. But I always found that the article was negative in talking about it. And here, although I haven't really said if I'm positive or negative, I've more or less discussed why certain aspects of youth culture are the way they are, rather than just demeaning them. Because I believe that just because it's a different kind of childhood to what has been before doesn't mean it should be demonized. It's just new. We're not really sure how it'll end up, but we should celebrate what we have now. And so I've tried to challenge the fact that a lot of information is given to us about how bad the technology is in influencing the millennial generation. But yeah, it's mostly neutral, but I like to challenge that. How does your product engage with audiences, and how would it be distributed as real media text? Now this is where it gets interesting, because I really thought about this one. My magazine will be heavily influenced with technology. So I took this idea from Dust that it would be really influential in social media. Now, Dust has a really large Instagram audience and social media presence. Hopefully, I've written about it in my research. They sort of post artistic photos, fashion, art, that kind of thing on their blog and their social medias. And I found that to be a really interesting way of involving new readers and getting people involved in the magazine, especially with the new generation. And I find the artistic community may use things like Instagram and Pinterest, etc., for inspiration, and I think that it may be really useful for the magazine to show itself on a social media level, and I'd really get involved that way by putting content up. So, for example, on Instagram, it can post art and good photography and that kind of thing in posts, and it can put articles up on Facebook, etc., without actually having to publish a magazine. I don't plan on it being published that often, because I don't plan on it being paid for. It'll be a free magazine, and I think it will be distributed in certain things like tea rooms and galleries and things like that, where people can just pick them up and look through it. So preferably it would be sort of biannually made, and it'll be full of all sorts of interesting things. The way it would engage with the audience, not only on this social media level, but it's a local magazine, hence the phone book being a local area. In it is a lot of local community content. So people can submit things to the phone book, and they'll be edited by the company, and the work will be put in there. But such as this article, it was written by someone not in the company, but it was published by them, and that's there to help project artists, writers, photographers, all of their work, that if they're not getting enough consideration in the community, this will help them get off the ground a little bit, and also, due to it being a local magazine, there'll be different issues in different local areas. I plan on having certain articles like celebrating local business every half a year, saying this business is doing really well, go and check it out. Just to try and bump up the sort of artistic community's economy, especially in the local area, such as our little island, and hopefully this magazine will sort of start to get people a bit off the ground a little bit. It'll put them in the spotlight a bit more. How did your production skills develop throughout this project? Well, quite a lot actually. I'd never done media before, or even used Photoshop for that matter. So I feel like I've learnt years and years worth of information just on this one program. So I can show you here. I didn't have a green screen that I could use, so I've managed to cut out and colour all of his hair around here. And the lightning strike I've made myself and distorted and coloured and made to fit his face. Of course, I've done all the colouring, like on the shirt here and here with the phone. And of course, I've edited his face, liquefying it on Photoshop and using it just to sort of move features around a little bit and make it more aesthetically pleasing than it was. I also learned to use my camera a little bit better, because I used to just sort of press the button, but now I know all about lighting and how to really take a good shot. I've learned a lot of skills on how to set up a shot and what angles to take them at, and even just how to interact with the model well enough to get them to do what you want. But primarily the skills I've learned to use is Photoshop. Just being able to make something like this, I would never have been able to do that beforehand. They've gone from 0 to wherever this is now, whatever mark you give me. But yeah, I feel like I've developed an awful lot throughout this project. I've learned to use so many different tools on Photoshop, and how to literally just piece together a small part from many different layers, and it's quite incredible, really. I don't even know where to start. How did you integrate technologies on this product? Now, physically, I used my camera, which I haven't used much, but yeah, I sort of learnt to use it a bit more, and I managed to use a tripod and be able to hold it upright, and certain lights to be able to hold it lighting properly. Of course, with other technologies, I've got Photoshop, managed to use different software to be able to make it, save it in certain formats. InDesign, any kinds of different software that I've used in making this. I've also, on the theoretical side of things, tried to integrate just the popularity of technologies into distributing my magazine, and managed to make that a key component of the magazine itself, despite it being an art magazine, I feel that it's quite a nice marriage to make with technology and art put together, because you don't often think of that, but they hold hands quite nicely in this respect. Um, and yeah, I think that's about that.